Welcome into this week's edition of Jacket Sports Weekly. Dylan Cleland and Ed Diorio. We're going to break down everything, including the Jacket football team's second straight win.
Both soccer teams and both cross-country teams will be discussed on this week's episode, and Emily Bennett will sit down with Tyler Sisler of the men's soccer team.
Take a seat, enjoy. It's time for Jacket Sports Weekly.
Welcome back to Jacket Sports Weekly. We're going to start this week's episode in the best way possible, and that's with a football team win. Yes, the Jackets got their second win on the season this past Saturday against the Teal Tomcats. Dylan, you had the pleasure of calling the game on WCYJ. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the Jackets won 24-21, their second straight win in a row now. And really, Ed, it was a back-and-forth game. Teal had the lead 14-3 at the end of the first quarter, and then Waynesburg took the lead into half 17-14. So it was a very back-and-forth game. Some of the highlights, Tyler Perrone really settling in as that starting quarterback that we've been looking for as broadcasters. Waynesburg has struggled so far to find that. But Perrone was 16 of 26 with 185 yards, a touchdown he threw for. Nick Moretti threw for a touchdown as well. It was his first pass of the season. Typically in the wide receiver position, he threw to a 5-yard gem to Chad Walker. So a lot of guys getting involved, but it was good to see Perrone settle in.
More or less balance on offense, and that's the thing that I noticed about this Jacket team in this win was that out of their total yardage, there was only a 10-yard difference between the passing yards and the rushing yards in their total yardage total. So, and they gained more yards. They outgained Teal by 140 yards. So this was a complete performance all around, both rushing, passing, and on the defensive side of the football. I understand 21 points. It's kind of just gone along with how this team, they averaged 21 points per game going into this game, and they held the standard. They held their average, so nothing changed there. And the offense, as you mentioned, just really putting it all together in a game against a team that's much, I think, lesser than Waynesburg, and they did what they had to do by winning.
Yeah, they did, and you mentioned the balance. I want to touch on Chad Walker, who had that breakout game that I think a lot of us were looking for as well. He had 23 carries, 134 yards, caught a touchdown, and also ran in a touchdown. Those were his first two of the season, so it's nice to see guys that work hard all season long finally get into the end zone. As far as receivers are concerned, Nick Moretti had another long, deep catch. It was a 72-yard touchdown catch. Perrone placed it right there for him, and he was able to go in and score in the second quarter. So seeing a lot of guys offensively, I'm glad to see that this offense is finally kind of taking shape.
The one thing that I want to touch on before we move on, and something they need to improve on before they get to Carnegie Mellon and further into their schedules, they got to get better at defending the long ball. It bit them again against Teal, and this time it didn't result in a loss, but in every game this season except for the Geneva game, they have given up a 20-plus yard touchdown pass to their opponent, and at least one. That's something that has to change, and I thought it would when Justin Wilco came back from injury, but that just hasn't been the case. So that's something they need to look to improve on going forward. But even though it happened this past Saturday, it didn't come to bite them.
You're right, it didn't, but a couple of highlights still real quick. John Glenn Davis, 8 tackles. Garrett Hepner, 7 tackles. Will Van Norman, 6. So a lot of different guys getting involved in the defensive game. It's just that secondary that is going to have to tighten up.
Speaking of defense, let's move to a team now that is very good defensively and showed it once again on Saturday. That's the women's soccer team. The women's soccer team defeating St. Vincent on Saturday 4-1 on Alumni Day against the St. Vincent Bearcats. Alicia Wagner outscored the Bearcats by herself, scoring 2 goals. So impressive statement victory, opening up PAC play for the Lady Jackets, but what were your takeaways from the game?
I have a few. Waynesburg outshot St. Vincent 9-7. This offense is producing ways to get shots on goal, which is the only way you're going to score in soccer. So I think that if they can continue to get shots, and it's everyone too. You're looking at the goals that were scored. You mentioned Alicia Wagner, but also Emily Hill had a goal. Gina Bonora had a goal. So a lot of different people getting involved offensively. Courtney Seifert has been tremendous in goal for the Jackets. We cannot give her enough credit. She had 3 saves. She only allowed 1 Bearcat goal on Saturday, but throughout this season, throughout the first 10 games or so where they have a winning record now, and now they have a win in the PAC, she's been able to really hold them up. And another thing, Go down to John F. Wiley Stadium and watch this team. They are 3-0-0 at home, so they have a very good thing going at home right now. And really, all things are looking up for this women's soccer team.
Absolutely, and the thing that was biting them in the butt whenever they went on their non-winning streak, I should say, when they went 0-2-2 after a 4-0 start, was the offense wasn't scoring. The offense was not supporting Courtney Seifert's efforts in net. Just wasn't putting her in the right positions to really just almost seem like she had to have perfect games. But when you can score 11 minutes into the game like they did against St. Vincent and score 4 goals total during the game, that'll really benefit Seifert and put some weight off her shoulders. Not feels like she has to carry the team on her back. So I'm excited to see what this team can do going into PAC play. And it seems like they've found their mojo after what seems like slipping.
Yeah, definitely. It's an improvement. They're looking towards the right. They have 2 games coming up. We'll get more into that. They're at Westminster on Wednesday, and then they'll take on Bethany at home next week. So some more conference games, but definitely some more opportunities that I think they're going to take advantage of.
Now flipping to the other side with the men's soccer team, they also were victors against St. Vincent in a more convincing fashion. However, St. Vincent, it's kind of hard to determine how good this team is depending on their opponent because St. Vincent is now 1-9 on the season and was the last place team in the PAC last season. So, good win, beat the team you're pretty much supposed to, but not too much you can really take away about how good this team really is going into conference play.
No, we can dive into that in 1 minute. I just do want to touch on Tuesday. They had their last non-conference matchup of their schedule, and that was against the number 24 ranked Mount Union in the country. So, and they only gave up 1 goal in that game. Adam Dolan, the netminder, made 8 saves and only allowed 1. So he needs a little bit of defensive help, and I think we maybe saw that in that game against St. Vincent, as you mentioned. Dan Hott with 4 goals on the season. Tyler Sisler, who Emily Bennett's going to sit down with later in the show. Those 2 are leading this team offensively, but you're getting guys like Lane Cheney, Thomas Robinson chipping in now. So it's a very wide variety of guys that they have scoring for them.
As you mentioned, new names getting into the mix, and the thing about it is, and you touched on Adam Dolan, he only had to face 4 shots against St. Vincent. Anytime you take that pressure, and that kind of goes back to what I said about Courtney Seifert earlier, about how she gave up 4 goals against Baldwin Wallace in the last game before this past one for St. Vincent for the women's team. She faced a lot of shots, so naturally you're going to give up goals when you keep getting those opportunities. Same thing goes for Adam Dolan. If the defense is good enough to not give him opportunities to have to save the ball from going into the back of the net, it's going to be good. It's going to result in good things, and that's what happened against St. Vincent, and hopefully we can see more of the same from this team. Both soccer teams really looking good going into conference play.
Yeah, they are, and similar to the women, the men outshot St. Vincent 21-6. So just to continue to add on to that offensive, idea, it's there for both teams, and it's very encouraging.
When we come back on Jacket Sports Weekly, Riley Holsinger is going to sit down to talk more about the football team. You're watching Jacket Sports Weekly.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Back on Jacket Sports Weekly with Riley Holsinger, our football analyst. He's going to talk a little bit about last week's win, and then we'll get into CMU in a little bit.
Yeah, well, I saw a lot in that game. It was a lot closer than it should have been, but we really opened up the offense a ton with Tyler Prone. He's gaining some confidence now under center, and he's really fitting in Smithley's spread offense that they've been running here. And it helps when you have Chad Walker. He had 23 carries, 138 yards, and a touchdown, as well as a receiving touchdown in that game. And then Nick Moretti, 6 catches, 114 yards. But that couldn't have been done without the offensive line. They only gave up 1 sack all game. That was huge. And then the Yellow Jacket rushers, they got 205 yards on 38 carries. That was a huge thing for them to win that game.
We saw this past Saturday, like you mentioned, how much the offense opened up. Do you expect more of the same coming up this Saturday against Carnegie Mellon?
Yeah, I really expect it too, because now we're getting rid of the Doc and Perone question. Now it's more of a running and passing question. So with the offense opening up, that's huge for play action fakes, run pass options, And really, this Carnegie Mellon team, I had high expectations for them coming into the season, but if Waynesburg jumps off to an early lead and they could create stops on defense, I think Waynesburg can really win this game.
You brought up an interesting point. Carnegie Mellon coming off a loss to Grove City, who had not won a game prior to this past Saturday. What are the Tartans going to be bringing to Wiley?
Yeah, they're going to bring a lot of physicality, but they're losing their top 3 guys from last year in Sam Banger, John Prather, and Tommy Mansfield. But you're going to see a lot of senior quarterback Alex Klein. Last week he was 21 for 35 through 228 yards, and he had a touchdown pass. You'll see a lot of utility player Willie Richter, too. He's been on fire so far. He's leading them in receiving yards with 24 catches, 405 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And he's a running back, too. That's insane what you're getting out of your running back.
Do the Jackets go over 500 or get to 500 and over 500 in PAC play this Saturday against the Tartans?
I believe they're going to be 500 this weekend.
All right.
We'll see what happens. The Jackets host the Tartans at homecoming this Saturday at John F. Wiley Stadium. We'll be back for more on JSW.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Welcome back into Jacket Sports Weekly. Corey Fisher sitting down with us now to discuss the men's cross country team. Corey, what have you seen from this team so far this season?
Yeah, they've been pretty good so far, but coming off a bye week this past week. 2 weeks ago, September 22nd, they had their meet at home course at Greene County Airport, and they placed 4th out of 10 teams, finishing with 89 points behind Grove City, who had 80 points. Sophomores Matt Collum and Matt Durgan have been leading the Jackets all season long, so we're going to be looking for them next week when they head out to DeSales for that invitational. Now, DeSales is an out-of-conference team who it's tough to judge on because their first meet they hosted consisted of 3 teams, and they placed 3 out of 3 teams. Then following that, September 15th, they traveled down to a Division II-III combo challenge in Kutztown University, and they placed 6th out of 11th. So, I mean, they're all over the place. We don't know how good they are. They're very different from Waynesburg, though. They lead on seniors more. Gabe Lamb and Brendan Fox are the 2 seniors who have consistently placed in the top 5 each week so far for the Bulldogs. So it's going to be interesting to see how the 2 seniors match up against the 2 Jackets the 2 sophomore Jackets, I should say, who lead Waynesburg week in and week out.
Now, you mentioned those sophomores. We've seen the success. We've seen Matt Collum, Matt Durgan, Nate Jesselin, and more really power this team this season. Do you see the sophomores continuing to carry the load of work?
Absolutely. I think it's going to help them this week, though. Saturday it's going to be 83 degrees, so I mean it's going to be a nice match, one they haven't seen in a little bit of amount of time here. But I think the seniors on this week off are probably going to look to up their game to see if they can get in, top 7, but more so top 5 scoring. Because right now, as you said, Nate Jesselin, Matt Collum, and Matt Durgan are all sophomores, and they are really leading on them to lead the team, which they haven't disappointed so far. I mean, the Waynesburg's been in every race, but it's just leading on those two to 3 sophomores is going to take a toll on them eventually getting late in the season.
Now, the women's team obviously has the same advantage that the men do, and that's they do have this week off. What do you think that's going to do for this team?
I think it'll do a lot. As I said, I think it'll help the seniors the most because they've been watching the sophomores place ahead of them. I think it's not going to be so much a week off for those seniors. I think they're going to kick it in, hit the weight room. I think they're going to be running a lot more because I think they really want to place ahead of them, if not right with them in that top 3, top 5 line. I think they're tired of seeing the younger kids get better than them, which is what you want. You want a good competitive atmosphere in your program because then everyone wants to be a winner.
Well, thank you, Corey, for touching on the men's team. When we come back on Jacket Sports Weekly, Mitch Montani is going to touch on the women's team. You're watching JSW.
When you're out there, there's no telling what you'll find.
I see it! Oh, look at you.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Now it's time to talk about women's cross country, and our analyst Mitch Montani is in studio to talk about it. What happened in the girls last time out?
Well, it was a week before last Saturday that the last time the women's cross country team was out and in action, and it was a big success for the women's cross country team. First out of 11 teams that took part in the Waynesburg Invitational, which was held at the Greene County Airport. By the way, the Greene County Airport is the future site of the President's Athletic Conference Championships. That'll be held in just under a month on October 27th. So it was good practice for the women's bunch to go out there and compete in a match, or at a location, I should say, in a match that is going to be much more important about a month down the line. But a great day for Waynesburg, as I mentioned, first out of 11 teams, 20 points better than the second place team, which was Grove City. They scored 64 points in comparison to the 44 points scored by the Yellow Jackets. And it's a good sign because the meet also contained a bunch of future competition. Beside Waynesburg, 6 other PAC schools were beaten by the Jackets. Grove City, Geneva, St. Vincent, Chatham, WJ, and Bethany all falling to the Yellow Jackets. So that's a good sign moving forward.
Now, we saw earlier in the season how Chris Hardy sat some of his upperclassmen runners and better runners at the Bethany Invitational just for rest. As you mentioned, the Waynesburg Invitational happened 2 weeks ago. What do you think this week of rest, this team needs more of an improvement in a rest, but how much do you think that's going to help them going forward in their next match?
Oh, it's big, especially in cross country where you have to look at things such as rest and taking days off and being strategic with elements other than sheer running. When it comes to cross country, you need to take a lot of factors into account, and I'm sure that it's very, very good for this Yellow Jackets women's team to get a week off, a quality week off, and move forward and see what they can do with the DeSales Invitational coming up this Saturday. And it's all practice runs for the President's Athletic Conference Championships, again, in Waynesburg coming up on October 27th, and that's the site where the Yellow Jackets will look to three-peat.
So do you think it's going to be more this weekend at DeSales, more of those younger girls that we've seen, Aubrey Wingart, girls like that, or the seniors like Tegan Simonton that are going to lead the way?
Well, Tegan Simonton's going to play a part. She's a true leader on this team and was second on the team and 6th overall with a time of 22 minutes and 7 seconds at the Waynesburg Invitational last Saturday. But you know what? It's going to be a lot of these young runners such as Aubrey Wingart, who finished first on the team, and Gloria Reed, who finished 3rd overall on the team, a pair of freshmen for the Yellow Jackets. And these sophomore and freshman runners have been crucial for the Yellow Jackets so far this season. 6 runners from the top 7 in that last meet in the Waynesburg Invitational were a sophomore or younger, so a lot of good signs with this future bunch.
Thank you, Mitch. Your input is always appreciated. When we come back, Jack Hillgrove will be in studio to talk women's volleyball. You're watching Jacket Sports Weekly.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Welcome back to JSW. Jack Hillgrove is now with us to discuss the volleyball team, and just when we thought things were looking up, they start going downhill again, huh?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, Ed, but let me run you through what happened. 4 consecutive losses, all to President's Athletic Conference foes. A 3-1 loss to Geneva. They weren't 3-0. That's good. And then the matches after that, they were 3-0. A 3-0 loss to Chatham. 0 blocks in that match against Chatham, 28 errors. And the one thing, too, about that is they didn't have any player with a double-digit amount of kills. Jordan Wiley has been their mainstay as far as getting 10 or plus kills. She didn't in that game. Against Teal, things went down a little bit more. They didn't get to 20 in any of their 3 sets. 18 errors, which isn't that bad. Hannah Colvin got 6 kills, but Jordan Wiley, again, only 6 kills. She needs to be their leader, and she didn't do that match. And another common trend, 0 blocks. And then against Geneva, even more. Guess how many points they scored in set number 1?
6.
5.
Wow.
5 points. It was 11-4 at one point, and then Geneva went on a 14-point run to end that set, which is ridiculous. 26 errors, only 1 block. So in those 4 matches, they've only blocked 3 shots, which is abysmal when it comes to volleyball. They need to, you have to have a steady block if you want to win any matches. and 3 and 4 matches is just bad.
Now, you mentioned all these low statistics, and it's been a lot of up and down for this team this year. When you win 3 and then you lose 4 in a row, what can you do to try to get back on track?
Well, Coach Haley Kirby, and again, it's her first season on the job, but one thing that she needs to change is what I touched upon, is establish more of a block. I don't know if it's the fact the front row players are just a little bit slow getting to covering a hitter, or they're just not getting the timing off at all, but there needs to be more of a block established, and they just need to tone down the errors a little bit more too. We saw errors in 30 or 40 point numbers at the beginning of the season. They're starting to tone those down, but if they want to make some more strides at the end of the season, they have to tone it down just a little bit more.
Do you see this team catching any late success, or mid-season success, I should say, after this slump?
Well, yeah, because their next game at home on Wednesday is against St. Vincent, a team who they picked up a set on the road. That game's at home, but the 2 after that, LaRoche and Bethany. LaRoche coming off of 2 consecutive 3-0 matches, and they're probably going to get a third against Pitt Greensburg, who only has 9 players. And then on October 9th against Bethany, they're 5-1 in PAC play, and Katie Sparks is the PAC kills leader. So if they're going to get one conference win, I can see it against St. Vincent, but if not, we'll see.
Jack, your input is always appreciated here on Jacket Sports Weekly. When we come back, Emily Bennett will sit down with men's soccer player Tyler Sisler. You're watching JSW.
No more pencils, no more books, no more teachers, dirty looks. School's out for summer.
What this place needed was better graduation rates. So we worked with schools like Henry Ford High, and now they're up 18%. To help us do more good this year, go to unitedway.org, because great things happen when we live united.
Welcome back to Jacket Sports Weekly. I'm Emily Bennett here with senior forward Tyler Sisler. Thanks for joining me. So currently the team's record is 4-6 overall. This could be the most successful team in a few years. So what is really working for the team this year?
I think we had a lot of good freshmen coming in, and then only losing 2 from last year. I think team kind of still stuck together because we don't really have to rebuild anything.
So over the weekend, you won your first PAC game of the year, 6-0 against St. Vincent. How important was that to the team, like heading into this PAC stretch?
Yeah, definitely really big, especially coming off of a rough preseason, I guess you call it. Definitely losing a couple tough games to like ranked teams in the country. So definitely getting the first win in the PAC is definitely huge moving on. So
what are some of the things the team needs to work on as we go into this final stretch with PAC play?
We definitely just our defense, really. We gotta get the ball out and let up not as many goals as we have been.
Now, what are some of the team's goals for the season?
Definitely a big goal for us is to win PAC, make it to the tournament, because we've only made it to PAC playoffs once. So that's definitely a big goal for us. Mainly that, just we got to do well in PAC, get to the PAC playoffs, maybe NCAA playoffs.
Now switching over to you, you transferred from Potomac State College last year. Why did you kind of make that switch?
So Potomac State was a 2-year college, so after that I needed somewhere to go. A couple of my friends from back home, they talked about Waynesburg, kind of got me hooked up here with Coach Brad, and it's basically how it worked out here.
So last year you were second team All-PAC. It's your first year here. What has been kind of your experience been like?
It's been a really great experience, actually. Going from Potomac State, not so big of a school, to Waynesburg, not huge, but it's a little bit bigger. I think just coming in, at first, I was a little not unsure what was going to happen, but then once we progressed into classes, into soccer, everything just worked out normal.
So you've been a big part of this team last year and this year. What are you kind of looking to accomplish in your senior year?
Definitely want to win PACs. I mean, everyone wants to, obviously, but definitely last year of soccer, not sure what's going to go on after that. Definitely want to go out doing something good.
You mentioned last year of soccer. Now you're kind of, that senior year, kind of flashing back through your career. What's kind of your favorite memory?
Favorite memory? Probably, I don't know. I don't really have any big memories of soccer in college, but definitely in high school, just like with all senior year of high school with the team, we all at least hung out, did stuff together, made it farther than anyone has in school history. So definitely that was probably the best memory so far for soccer.
So you mentioned high school. So in high school you played baseball, basketball, both in and outdoor, track and field, along with soccer, of course. So what kind of made you choose soccer in college?
So soccer was what I grew up on. I didn't start playing any other sports until high school. It was just soccer my whole life. I was looking at first for another school for soccer and track both, but Potomac State kind of worked out the best. So, and they didn't have a track team, so it was soccer. That was my main focus.
Now, when you came here, did you think about playing other sports?
When I transferred here, I also talked about maybe doing track, but just soccer was my main focus, and we'll see what goes on with that, with track after that.
Now, being a college athlete, takes dedication and busy schedules and everything. What kind of continues to motivate you even with the busy schedule?
Definitely just, soccer, because without doing well in classes, you can't play soccer. So you have to work hard in the classroom to be able to be in the field in the fall.
So if you could go back and change one thing in your college career, what would that be and why?
I think maybe working harder. You don't know how good it was until it's gone. So like coming up in your senior year, I know it's like kind of sad, but still like you think about, I don't know if I'm ever gonna play soccer again. So definitely don't take those days for granted. Always work hard no matter what.
Well, thank you for joining me, and good luck in the rest of your PAC play. But when we come back, Ed and Dylan, we'll have your Waynesburg University Top 5 Athletes of the Week. Don't go anywhere.
Pretty much a good day for me would be people leaving their hands off of me. I'm always called names. Everywhere that I go, there's always someone calling me names, calling me gay. I've been choked, thrown up against a wall, punched. Nobody's ever tried to help me.
Now it's time to give you our top 5 athletes of the week. I'm going to get started with mine. Emily Hill is my number 5. She added a goal against St. Vincent on Saturday, and she leads an explosive Yellow Jacket offense with a team-leading 4 goals this season. Number 4, John Glenn Davis, 8 tackles, 1 sack, and he seemed to always be there on defense in the game against Teal on Saturday. Number 3, Adam Dolan, the goaltender for the men's soccer team. He has 2 shutouts in just this past week. He made 8 saves and only allowed 1 goal against number 24 ranked Mount Union, and also 2 saves in the PAC opener, which was a win against St. Vincent. Number 2, Leisha Wagner, the freshman from the women's soccer team. She scored 2 goals in their opener in the PAC. She has 3 goals and sits second on the team, only behind sophomore Emily Hill for the lead in that category. And number 1, you got to go with Chad Walker. He had a breakout game against Teal, and first 2 touchdowns of the season, 1 passing, 1 receiving, so I got to give it to him.
My number 5 is Lane Cheney from the men's soccer team. Had a goal and an assist for St. Vincent. I know that Thomas Robinson had 2 goals, but I like to give the guy the assist that spot. So he's number 5. Number 4, same as yours, John Glenn Davis led the team in tackles and tackles for loss and had a sack on top of that against Teal. Number 3 is Leisha Wagner. I know she was a little higher on your list, but for me, she's at number 3. She had 2 goals against St. Vincent. And number 2, your number 1, Chad Walker from the football team, 134 rushing yards against Teal. That was his season high, and had a touchdown receiving and rushing. By far his best performance of the season. Number 1, Nick Moretti, had a touchdown receiving and throwing for the wide receiver. And on top of that, he led the Jackets in receiving on the day against Teal. Big win for the football team, and he was a big reason why.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for checking in on Jacket Sports Weekly. Come back next time for the latest in Jacket Sports.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.